Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I know pretty much everyone has taken a seat if you haven't already. We are about to get started. Just want to say good morning and welcome to Canada 2067, Calgary Regional Youth Summit. Welcome, everyone. Are you excited to be here? Well, we are very excited about today. We're excited that you could join us here for this unique event to shape the future of education. My name is Bindu Suri. I'm the anchor for Global News Calgary. I'm used to talking in front of an audience, thousands and thousands of people, but I usually don't see them. It's just a camera. So this is a little nerve-wracking here, and this is a very smart audience I've heard as well. I've got a few of you have shown up. All right, well, I'll be your host this morning, and I'm delighted to celebrate the role of science, technology, engineering, and math. STEM, and our world, and hear what you have to say about our future. A couple of housekeeping items. You'll see the washrooms are just on either side of the room here. I am particularly excited about Canada 2067 because it is big and bold, and it's an attempt to think differently about the future of education. So this morning is dedicated to showcasing a group of phenomenal people who will be sharing with us their ideas about the future as it relates to STEM, their careers, the interesting things that they've done. Each talk is pretty short, 3 or 6 minutes. We'll have time for questions as well. You'll see all the chairs up here for the guests. So that will happen after the speakers are finished. And I do want to remind you that this morning is also being live streamed. So I want to welcome all of our other guests. Oh, great. An even bigger audience out there who have tuned in. You'll also be able to follow along with the Event Mobi app. I think some of you have already downloaded that. So to open the event for this morning, I want to first off I am pleased to announce Cree Elder Ernest Poundmaker from the Atakakup First Nation. I want to welcome Elder Poundmaker to the stage now.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to start off by saying on behalf of the First Nations of Treaty 7, we welcome all of you, and we hope that you have a very interesting day, a fun day. I'm not used to coming here in this capacity. I attend the graduation ceremonies here every June, in which the University of Calgary recognizes the graduates from our First Nations community, and they honor them here with a large gathering, a large powwow. And so it's good to be here in a different forum, but I nonetheless welcome all of you. I work in the city of Calgary. I work in many different capacities. I work with young people. I work with homeless people. I work in the addictions field as well, assisting in that area. And I share what knowledge I have in the area of spirituality and the culture. So there are many of our people that are struggling with those things in our community. So I work with a team of people in the community where we provide those services. But I'm going to go with our custom of all First Nations that whenever we gather, and we share information, and we get an opportunity to meet new people and to network with other people and agencies. We always extend a prayer to our Creator anytime that we come together in this manner. So I'm going to sing a song of Thanksgiving today, just to give thanks for this day. Give thanks for this life that we have. Give thanks for our families. So I'm going to be singing this song, and I'm going to follow that with a short prayer. And I ask for very simple things in my prayer. First of all, I give thanks for this day. Give thanks for this life. Give thanks for this creation, But I also ask for good health and happiness and understanding. Those are the things that I ask for. So when it comes time for that prayer, I'll ask you to join me and to pray in your own way. Thank you. Mamun tauima aksemantu. Minä kihtaan Apega, kina naskumtnan. Matsun käpi miä kassamina. Haagapi miuna kuhtain kah jogikoi. Hamina Apega assamina pemam siitä tatnan. Nuhtauinan. Tema kihtoja kassuemia. Hamumetski koima teessä. Ngapagam skagunan nuskagiskak. Kassuemetsi kenagatemetsi kah joge. Uskai siinä vaikka Mateessa, kami asin juuni gano teo meskan amua Mateessa, vaskuten amogan uskaa kiskaak omamta neitsi ganua. Mateessa, miu pikskue on Mateessa, ksevat sun. Kani ganastaagan uskaa kiskaak, kami asin kahjau igoi Mateessa, pikskuesta maananak nuakumagannanak kahjau. Niitä sannanak taasimsnanak minä nussimnanak. Anoskaa kiskaaga gan uim gusteg Mateessa. Mateessa, tamag nounan, tamagihtaunaan. Nuakumaganag minangi haimanohka nii pautsek. Kavisak tehetseg anoskaa kiskaaga Mateessa. Kajakassin niu Mateessa. So imnaan, nagateemnaan kahjo gaiswapamia. Magikueks keittämä. Maga mamustiganan nistanaan anoskaa kiskaaga gan uim gustjak. Gan uim gustjak. Kahjo. Eikö niistä ispaksi emojan? Hai, hai. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Poundmaker, for opening our hearts and our minds to focus us on the important work that we have to do here today. My name is Bonnie Schmidt. I'm president of Let's Talk Science. I'm just thrilled to be here. For nearly 25 years, Let's Talk Science has been working with students, educators, schools right across Canada to bring science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to life. This is one of the most important events that we've ever done. We want to hear from you about your thoughts, your views, your passions, your ideas for the future, and I'm just so excited to hear what comes from you all today. Right now, though, I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce the Honourable Marlin Schmidt, no relation, Minister of Advanced Education from here in Alberta. Come on up.
You didn't have to be so quick to say that we're no relation, Bonnie, but thank you very much for that warm introduction, and thank you, Elder Poundmaker, for that blessing. I'm honored to be here on behalf of Rachel Notley and all of my government colleagues on the traditional territory of Treaty 7, and I sincerely thank Let's Talk Science for the invitation to join you this morning. Events like this are important for helping to shape the future of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics because you guys are the future. It's because of you that we'll be able to land on Mars, or build a flying car, or maybe finally figure out the last digit of pi. It's so inspiring to see the tremendous interest and enthusiasm that you all have for science, technology, engineering, and math, and it's energizing to be among so many people who are dedicated to encouraging young people to get excited about this stuff and to tackle all of these big problems that we have to deal with. I'm excited to be here because I love science. Like many of you, as a grade 9 student, I was curious about how things worked, and I was motivated to learn more about how to make things better. I had wonderful teachers and mentors who encouraged me to follow my interest in science throughout school, into university, and on to grad school. And you know what? My post-secondary education in science has provided me with valuable skills that I still use today in my role with the government. These are skills that you'll be able to apply in today's workshops, like critical and creative thinking, problem solving, communication, time management, and teamwork. These are skills that you will use for the rest of your lives. Grade 9 students are so important to the future of Alberta and the future of Canada. But how many of you know what you want to be when you grow up? If you don't, that's okay, because I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And if you think you want to be one thing and then you change your mind, that's okay too. But whatever you decide, Alberta wants to be the place where you can make your dreams come true. Maybe you want to start a new business, or invent something, or improve on somebody else's idea. We know that we need to make sure that young people like you have opportunities to discover, to experiment, and to innovate. That means we need to support your teachers and provide all of your fellow students with the same chances to get involved in science, technology, engineering, and math. So to help you achieve whatever you set your mind to, we need to help you to go to university. That may seem far away, but we need to make sure that these schools will work for you when you get there. That means we need to make sure that tuition isn't too expensive. We need to give money to universities and colleges to make sure that you have clean, high-tech classrooms and the best teachers and textbooks to learn with. That's how our government will help you make your dreams come true. And we are here to help. We want Alberta to be the place where people can discover, invent, and create. As Alberta and Canada's future leaders, I hope that you'll keep believing in yourself. You can make our world a better place through science, technology, engineering, and math. So once again, I want to thank Let's Talk Science for hosting today's summit and for encouraging youth to help shape the future of STEM learning. So thank you all for all of the good work that you're going to do today, and I look forward to the changes that you're all going to make for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Schmidt. Also, no relation in case you were confused. Thank you so much for those inspiring words. And he really is so right, isn't he? These skills that you learn within the sciences, which was a passion of mine as well. I kind of switched over to TV, still do stories on science. I'm at the University of Calgary a lot, actually, talking to professors and doing stories. And you do use those skills in everyday life. So absolutely agree. Thank you so much for those inspiring words. We are going to dive right in now. Our first speaker is Warren Bills, who is a digital farming business developer for Bayer Inc., who also happens to be one of our sponsors today. So we want to welcome Warren.
Thank you. Wow, this is, what a privilege. Hello, good morning. I love getting the opportunity to start it out this morning. The clock has started, so I do need to begin. I've heard it already once today. What do you want to be when you grow up? I actually think this is kind of a silly question. I actually don't like this question because when I was asked this question when I was your age, I was filled with uncertainty, maybe a little anxiety. I didn't know how to answer, and often the person asking this question, I felt compelled to give them a response that they agreed with. So next time you're asked this question, maybe don't answer it. I'd like to consider thinking about it a little bit differently. Imagine yourself 20 years from now in a career that you love, helping people, doing what you enjoy every single day, making lots of money, having lots of flexibility, and your job isn't your job. It's just your life. Well, that's what I'm here to share with you today. You see, this is my grandpa, sitting on a tractor that he once farmed with. And I didn't get the chance, but if I had the chance to ask him, Grandpa, what would an ideal farm be like for you in 30 years? I think his answers would have been, well, air-conditioned tractor, fertilizer to help grow better crops, plants that can withstand drought, plants that can make better food. Very, very logical things for him in his day, 30 years in the future. And the neat thing is, the future is always better than we think, because he got all those things. He truly did. And so what I have an opportunity to work in is a culture. It's a culture that's filled with the best people, the best things, and the best opportunity that I get to share with you today. And that culture is agriculture. And you may have thought that because I grew up on a farm, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to work in agriculture. Well, you're wrong. I grew up in a small town in northern Alberta, and I was going to be a chiropractor. I was dead set on being a chiropractor. And I came out of high school with great marks, went into that first year of science, just about didn't make it out. And it was through that experience, through some of those failures and some of those learnings that you really had to look in and say, how could I really be fulfilled in life? And that's where I choose agriculture and haven't looked back since. When I was 24, I started my first business. I was an entrepreneur, right? Everyone's dream, work from home in your basement, right? Just walk downstairs with your coffee, make lots of money, do what you want, travel. It's the dream of the entrepreneur. But some of those things were true, but not all those things. I learned to fail. I learned to fail fast, and I learned to adjust, and I learned to pivot, and that's what you get to do when you're in small business. But what I really learned in those 10 years of running a company was that agriculture could bring so much more, so much more. And the neat thing is that I love food. And so I know that you all love food too, so we do have more in common than you think we do. And the neat thing about food is when you look at food or when you're cooking with food, the wheat that went into that bun, the potatoes that went into those fries, the hard work that went into growing those cows for that beef, that's what I get to be a part of, and that's what I want to share. And we have a job, we have a challenge. In the next 20 or 30 years, our population is going to increase by 30 to 40%. Okay, and they are going to be hungry. I promise you that. Everybody needs to eat. And so our job is to figure out how to feed them, because the reality is we need to grow 60 to 70% more food than we're growing today to feed them. And the world is fixed, and we have land that we can work on, and that's what I get to do. What I really get to do is work with the funnest part of technology in agriculture, and it's called digital farming. And I get to work with robots. I would say this is probably my future co-worker in a certain degree, no word of a lie. I get to work with maps, I get to work with data, I get to work with computers, I get to work with software, with algorithms, with sensors. Everything that you may not understand agriculture is about, I get to work in. And it's just a fantastic thing, and I get to apply it into growing food. Agriculture is also about genetics, science, growing better plants, more healthier plants, plants with that can withstand all sorts of stresses. Agriculture is robots. Okay, this is a picture of a Mars robot that's planting a corn seed. Okay, now picture swarms of these robots out in the field planting, out in the field protecting our crops. This is coming for you and for me. This will be part of my world in the next 10 years, guaranteed. Agriculture is nutrition. Agriculture is trying to grow better crops, more crops, but also healthier crops. Crops that can help cure blindness, cure obesity, help improve with golden rice, things like vitamin A deficiency in developing countries. And we have an opportunity to be a part of that. Agriculture's chemistry, okay? Veterinary medicine, medicine for plants, reactions, all those things, whatever interests you, I promise you, you'll find it in agriculture. Agriculture is people. Agriculture is passion, and agriculture is family. This is one of my favorite family farms out in Saskatchewan, and they've really found a way to give back not just to their family through ingraining in them a culture, but also giving back to the community, and they really are growing our future. Agriculture is travel. If you like to travel, agriculture is where it's at. I wouldn't have imagined I would have been in Kazakhstan 10 years ago, but I was there. Agriculture is outer space, not astronauts, but satellites and sensors, and agriculture is purpose, giving back to people that need help. Agriculture is purpose. And so when I look into the future of agriculture, I'm looking out at faces that look like this, okay? And I think of people like yourself, people that didn't grow up on farms, people that are curious, people that are gritty, people that are passionate. 1 in 8 jobs in Canada is in the ag and agri-food sector. So over 30 of you are going to be joining me in agriculture. And when you're driving out this July and you're seeing these beautiful yellow fields, I want you to consider that land is growing food, and it's growing food for the next 100 years, and you can be part of it. So if you'd like to start a business and be an entrepreneur, do that. Do that. Challenge yourself. Fail fast, often, learn, adapt. For me, I found myself inside a big company that supports me, and I consider myself somewhat of an entrepreneur. And there's companies that exist to support global mission and global vision, and many of them are represented here today. So when I was 15, sitting on that same tractor, I think if someone asked me, what did you want to be when you grew up? That question I don't really ask. I probably would have answered it, maybe not really what I understand to be true today. And so I want to thank you for your time. I look forward to spending the rest of the day with you. Head in, yeah, that's good. Thank you so much.
Save the best joke for last. I see what you did there. Who knew? Agriculture, robots, traveling, if that doesn't make you want to stick with science. And I'm so glad you said you didn't make it out of the first year. Because let me tell you, I did stick with it though, but wow, that first year of science, but it was fun. Thank you so much, Warren. Thank you again. We'd now like to invite a speaker from one of Canada's 2067's founding partners up to make a few remarks as well. We are welcoming Jeremy Stothart, Regional Sales Director from Amgen Canada, a biotech leader that pushes the boundaries of science to transform medicine for Canadian patients.
Going to raise this a little bit. I'm going to stand behind the podium just because I don't have a microphone. But I want to say it's great to hear from Warren this morning. My grandfather was the director of the experimental farm in Lacombe for a lot of his career, so your words spoke to me for sure. I work for Amgen. It's a pharmaceutical company, and it has about 20,000 employees. And science is at the center of everything we do. I can say that honestly. What I'm so inspired by for being with you today is that, without a doubt in my mind, people in this room are going to do it better than it's ever been done before. My career has taken me all over the world. I know I'm the regional director now for Western Canada, but last year I was the global marketing lead for a new product that's coming out to tackle some of our worst cancers that we have here. but you're starting from a place that was far beyond where I started from. It's been 16 years since I lived in Alberta, but I grew up here. I grew up in Alberta. I grew up in a little town called Devon, and honestly, there's nothing there. There was nothing there when I grew up. And we got excited about some farmers in the backfield one time pushed up a bunch of dirt into a pile. We called it the Black Hill. Are you going to the Black Hill? Really, it was just dirt. And I was the youngest of the group of friends that we had. I had an older brother in the little cul-de-sac that I lived in. And I was the poor kid who Mom said, "Come, just let Jeremy go play with you, please. Let Jeremy go play." And one time the kids in the Crescent made a little jump. This is where I kind of cultivated, I think, an element that's core to STEM is that we have to do it better. And there was this little jump, and people were going off it in their bikes, and I was still on my tricycle. And I said, "We can do this. We have to do this better. We need a better jump than this." And so I convinced the kids in the neighborhood. We took the fence gate off of our fence, and we brought over a couple of garbage cans, and we put them up, and we had this fence gate off these garbage cans. And I thought, well, if I go outside the Crescent that I live in, there was a little hill. If I got all the speed I could, and I leaned to the inside to try to keep all three wheels on the ground, I could hit this jump. And so I tried that, screamed down the hill into the Crescent, hit the jump. It didn't end very well. But I think that was the start of that notion of we have to do it better. Now, there's much more important issues that we have here in our world today, and you're going to have the opportunity to do a little bit better, or a lot better than it's ever been done before. Hopefully it's not the new Kardashian line, but maybe that's what you're working on there in makeup. Now, STEM can lead to a lot of exciting careers. You're going to hear the number of careers, the number of jobs that are needed in STEM is staggering. The 2067 program will go through some of those details. Whether you're somebody who's an engineer who's going to design the next skate park to make sure people have enough air or not too much air, whether you're an ethical hacker who's going to make sure that our companies and our countries are safe from people who may not like to or may want to do things that aren't so nice, whether you're designing the next exciting video game, it could be you. So in my last year at university, I went to University of Alberta, and this is where I further developed that notion of we really have to do it better. I had a class in industrial organizational psychology, and an area of that is around design. And we did a study at the University of Alberta Hospital where we looked at physicians when they gave needles or they were working inside of people and they were working with sharp objects. Sometimes they would accidentally hit themselves with a needle. And at that time, only 1 in 19 of those times was that ever reported. And when I heard that, I thought, it's not right. We have to do better than that. There's a lot of reasons why it wouldn't have been reported. People didn't want to feel like they were doing too well or too poorly. So I worked for a sharps manufacturer out of Japan, and we developed a lot of new designs that would have been a lot better. So as I said, Amgen's a science-based company. It's the center of whatever we do. We're developing the latest in technology as far as pushing science. We work with biologics, meaning we're working with a live cell source to develop medicines. These are technologies that we're using with engineers to develop these medicines. I wanted to tell you a really quick story before I finish about Gustave Roussy. It's a center in France. Gustave Roussy was a gentleman who was born in the 1800s, died in the mid-1900s. And he wanted to open up a cancer center that was cutting edge. He was a neuropathologist, and so he knew these cancers are really, really bad. And we need to have the best minds together, but we also need to have a center where we're able to treat people. And the government at that time, for different reasons, said, we can't do it. We don't have the money to do it. And he said, I'm doing it on my own. And he set up this center. I was able to go there this last fall and complete a master class in GU oncology. So GU meaning testes, prostate, bladder, kidney. And what so impressed me about that center is they live the notion that everybody can have a science mentality. Everybody in the center. So they have the best scientists in the world working on the most cutting edge elements of what we can do to reduce morbidity, to reduce death around cancers. And the porters, the individuals who pushed the beds around the hospital, came up with a study on their own. And they went to the people who had been in university for 20, 25 years after they did well in high school, and they said, we think we can do this better. And they developed a study on pain, and it was actually their study of the year last year that was put together by these porters. Okay? If you take anything from my words today, know that STEM needs your awesome. STEM needs your brand of awesome. Just because it's challenging sometimes in math or science right now, don't think that you can't, in the future, provide some real value with science, okay? If you're somebody who is really good at science right now, please don't coast. Push yourself. Push the boundaries. Be the very best you can be, because there's some grievous illnesses and some challenges that we have in this world that really do need your best. You'll see all roads lead to science on the side as you work through some of the stations this afternoon. I urge you to look to that. I urge you to seek me out and tell me how you're going to do it better. And I thank you for your time today.
Some great words of encouragement there. Definitely continue to push yourself, and great to hear about the innovative thinkers that Amgen will need in the coming decades, so keep that in mind. Also, you really sold Devon. I really want to visit it. It's on my bucket list. Yeah, you sold it. All right, so we want to introduce our next speaker, Sophie Hoye Pacholek. Sophie is a grade 9 student. She's here in Calgary, and she won the Junior Platinum Award of the Canada-wide Science Fair. Very impressive. Welcome, Sophie, to the stage.
So I'd like to start by asking you, have you ever wondered why? Like, why are the seeds on a sunflower arranged in perfect spirals? Or how does a forest optimize resources for survival? Or is there sentient life in the universe? A 4-year-old asks, on average, 390 questions a day, and that's a question every 2.5 minutes. So no wonder why parents of toddlers are so tired. But this amazing amount of curiosity will tend to taper off as people grow older, and I just don't understand why it has to. I was one of those toddlers too, and I could never truly stop asking questions. I found my outlet for this through science fair projects, but there's many ways to go about it, and I always end up with more questions than I have answers, which is something that I love. My earliest elementary school project that I really did was concerning the beginning of the universe, and I checked in my school's library's resources and online, but I still couldn't quite find the answers that I was looking for. And it was the first time that my curiosity wasn't satisfied by books, parents, teachers, or the internet, so I decided to email NASA to ask them a few questions. And because I was 8, I didn't even consider that they wouldn't get back to me, but they did. And this was the first time that I learned that the wider scientific community was an extremely welcoming place. And as I've grown older, I've learned that my curiosity can allow me to see something with fresh eyes compared to those who see the same thing every single day, like experts. And the amount of responses that I get is amazing. I share what I've found or why I need their help, and it piques their curiosity to see someone so young working in a field of theirs. And because they're part of the educating community, they just want to extend what they have taught their grad students to you. My very first proper science fair project was in grade 5, and I was studying patterns in plants. I went out into a little field near my house and measured 6 or 7 trees with Dad as my trusty field assistant. And I was trying to see if the branch angles grew in a specific pattern. I taped all over pine cones and pineapples to see if they grew in spirals. And my apparatus was not very scientific. It had a large cardboard protractor, as you can see in the picture there, and a soggy logbook that had been dropped in the snow too many times. And as my projects have progressed, my questions have gotten deeper, and my planning has gotten better, admittedly, not going out in minus 15 degrees. But I still am fueled by asking questions. And if I don't know something, I try my best to learn it. Not everything goes well all the time, and things fail. But that's okay, because if something goes wrong, it's best to flaunt it instead of hiding it. 2 years ago, I was doing a project related to aspen trees, and part of it involved doing some DNA testing in the lab, which was really exciting for me. The first 3 samples went really, really well, so I went off and did another 9 over a full day and a 5-hour period and let them develop, and absolutely nothing happened because all of them were complete duds. But that's okay, because despite the failure of my DNA work, my scientific process that I followed was sound, and therefore my project ended up being fairly successful. Some people say that everything has already been done, but that's just not true. If anything, we've barely scratched the surface of science and what we can learn from the natural world. So I say that all of us have a unique perspective, and all of us can bring something new to the table. And this is why I love STEM research, and hope you do too, because it gives us all the opportunity to ask these questions and to fuel our curiosity. Thank you.
Great job, Sophie. Can we take that? Thank you. All right, so we have another speaker right now. We want to welcome Rahul Arora. Rahul is a youth speaker who is the CEO of Operation Med School, and he is in his 3rd year of biomedical science at the U of C. So we want to welcome Rahul to the stage.
Okay. I'm going to take some inspiration from Sophie and start off by asking you guys a question. Do you dream of curing cancer? What about working with SpaceX to build the world's future spaceships? Or how about even doing animation for a major motion picture, the next Hollywood hit? Let me tell you something, though. All of these amazing career options are actually rooted in math. Like a lot of people, I didn't really like math when I was in school. I just saw it as pushing numbers around on a sheet of paper, following procedures, not really engaging, just sort of boring. But my perspective dramatically changed when I started to think about math a bit differently, when I started to think about it as a problem-solving tool, as a language that could help me decode and understand mysteries. I started to realize that there was so much more to math than just arithmetic. How can a baby grow from just 1 cell in only 9 months? That's exponential growth in action. How and why we breathe is rooted in the math of air pressure. And math has practical implications too. Decoding German codes ultimately shaped the outcome of the Second World War. So it's clear that math is a powerful tool that can help us understand this world around us. And that's how I like to use it, to satisfy my curiosity, like Sophie mentioned, about everything around me. And the way that manifests for me is, outside of school, I spend the vast majority of my time doing cancer research. I work in a lab at the University of Calgary, where we study pancreatic cancer to see how we can stop the disease from growing. And, this pancreatic cancer is scary. It's dangerous. Less than 10% of people with pancreatic cancer survive for less than 10 people survive for 5 years after they're diagnosed. So it's a really horrible disease. But math lets me describe how cancer cells grow. Math lets me design clinical trials to test the best new drugs for pancreatic cancer. And ultimately, this work affects patients. It's really impactful, really meaningful work that I find creative, stimulating, and it's not just me. I work in teams with doctors and scientists to understand the math at play. I get to see these ideas come to life. And it's so gratifying to see something I've thought of actually positively impact a patient. So as each of you continues on your own math path, I'd encourage you to look for the principles behind the arithmetic because they'll help you speak the language of math better. And I'd encourage you to embrace the pattern finding and the problem solving that's such an inherent part of math, because they'll sharpen your mind, sharpen your critical thinking, and help you do so many amazing things that you may never have thought were possible. I believe that each and every one of you can do amazing things with your lives and careers, but keep in mind that everything needs math. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Really nice to hear about math from that perspective. Next up, we'd like to play you a short video from another Canada 2067 founding partner, 3M Canada. That will be followed by words from Dr. Gennaro Galvis.
You know you're never more than 10 feet away from 3M Science. It's in our homes, hospitals, job sites, just about everywhere. We're a science company, working to put a brighter future within reach.
Hi, everybody. Don't have any slides for you today. Just to want you to listen to my words. And just a few words that they asked me to share with you. So I am Gennaro Galvis. I'm originally from Colombia. And I work for one of the most innovative companies in the world, 3M. And our motto is 3M Science Applied to Life. So at 3M, we invent and we manufacture products that make our lives easier and better. We are proudly owners of more than 60,000 products now, and we have 113,000 patents that obviously are created by people like you in the future. 3M is a company rooted in scientific exploration and discovery, and the belief that every problem out there has a solution. So you may not believe it, but you are typically not more than 10 feet away from a 3M product. The 3M technologies are changing our house, your cell phone, improving our lives in general, improving our surroundings, improving your home. And at 3M, we believe science is just science until you use it to solve a problem, to improve something, and to make a difference in the world. And let me tell you that it's very exciting to work for a company like this. So I joined 3M as a research scientist a few years ago. My academic background is in chemistry and engineering. I did a PhD in chemistry. Yes, I spent many years in school, but let me tell you, I really enjoyed that part of my life, and I still miss it. Today, my job at 3M is about applying all my technical and people skills to collaborate with others, to work with others in solving problems for customers, for companies, solve problems in general for our society. Everything we do at 3M is about putting a brighter future within reach. And so we are only able to do this by working together. We are not working as individuals. We are always working as a part of a team. Really doing that, we believe together we achieve more and more, and we achieve things faster than we can ever do. So my advice to you today is to look at the world around you with a critical eye and think about ways in which you can make a difference, find your passion, establish your goal that you will dream to achieve. Get feedback from mentors, from your teachers, from family, from friends. They can help you always keep on track of what you're trying to pursue in life. And don't be afraid of failure, because failing is part of the journey to success. And finally, get involved in STEM education. This is a very exciting world to be part of. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Galvis. Love hearing about the common theme from a lot of these speakers, the curiosity that they had, the passion that they had for science, and the difference that they're making, which is incredible to hear what 3M especially does and how it impacts our daily life. We want to welcome our next speaker, Jessica Vandenburge, who is the Director of Enforcement and Permits for Apega.
Good morning. It's my honor to come speak with you today. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Chemical Engineering and a Master's of Science in Chemical and Mining Engineering, and I am a professional engineer. Engineering is about creating things, making things possible about the impossible, and making things better. I listen to Canadian musical artist Michael Bublé, and in one of his songs he says, "Today is yesterday's tomorrow." And so things are going on today from people who have STEM educations and STEM careers that they didn't even imagine 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. And so I'm going to share with you a couple headlines from recent articles. So the first one is about cloning. They've recently cloned a monkey. So a few years ago, they recently successfully cloned a sheep, Dolly, and now have cloned an entirely new species, monkeys. 3D printing. 3D printing is changing the way we look at the world. The medical industry is looking to 3D print organs. What does that mean? We don't need organ donators anymore. They're thinking of 3D printing food into space for astronauts. And I've heard of somebody 3D printing an entire house. That stuff is happening today. We heard about hover cars. That's in existence today. The largest automotive companies, BMW, Audis, are already having their prototypes. We hear of Amazon already drone testing delivery of packages, and Uber passenger delivery of people from place to place. And artificial intelligence, robots that can think, can make decisions like humans. I recently watched a YouTube video of a robotic dog that can open a door, and robots that can do backflips. I have never been able to do a backflip and probably never will, but there are robots that can do this already. So what about 2067? People with STEM educations and STEM careers, the world then will be based on their dreams and what they can picture and what they imagine for that time. What will it look like? That's up to you folks to decide. And so what I'm going to share to you today is 4 pieces of advice that helped me along my way to become a professional engineer. The first piece of advice is build confidence every day in small ways. Similar to the fellow before me, I grew up on a farm in northern Alberta. I'm an adopted Indigenous person. I grew up with a German family. And like any adopted Indigenous person, growing up with a German family, I learned to play the accordion. And so I learned to play the accordion. I taught myself piano. I play the flute and saxophone. And I was able to compose and create things from the music that I played. I love to braid friendship bracelets, and I'd invent new ways of braiding this with different materials. And I like to build with Lego. I built things without instructions. It allowed me to create and make things out of nothing. Building confidence in small ways is important for the next piece of advice, which is learn how to fail. We heard this message this morning already. Learn how to fail, but know that failure is not a reflection on yourself personally. And so I worked in the oil sands for 10 years doing research and development. With the teams I was with, we failed hundreds of times, hundreds and hundreds of times, but we did succeed in the end. And because of that, I hold several Canadian and US patents in that area, along with the teams that I work with. Which brings me to my next piece of advice. Find a team. Find a team to empathize with you, to motivate you, to help you. These teams will be there when you fail to say, you know what, you failed today and that sucks. And other people that will say, you know what, you can do it. I know you can. And other people to say, well, you know what, it didn't quite work out the way you thought, but perhaps maybe do it this way, or talk to that person, they can help you out. Teams will help get you through. Again, engineering is about creating and making things possible that you didn't even dream possible. And so the last piece of advice I have for you is to seek and find inspiration everywhere. I love to travel the world. I like to see things from a different perspective. I've rappelled down and done underwater cave rafting. I've climbed mountains of sand that you can't even imagine how high they are. Seek and find inspiration everywhere, and in everyday things as well. I like to read fantasy and sci-fi books. I find inspiration from Hermione Granger. She said, books and cleverness, there are more important things, friendship and bravery. I have 2 kids as well, a 7-year-old son who wants to be a geologist and a 9-year-old daughter who wants to be an engineer. In the books that I have read them, we also find inspiration. Dr. Seuss saying, you have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself in any direction that you choose. I find inspiration in sports and athletics. I am an avid downhill skier. And the Winter Olympics, I just love watching these people that inspire people with their work ethic and dedication. Miss Clara Hughes saying to us, if you dream and allow yourself to dream, you can do anything. I also find it in the music I listen to every day. I listen to the Tragically Hip, and the late Gord Downie said to us, I love this country. I love my idea of this country. And that's why I love engineering so much. It allows me to make things better, to be able to do things differently and see things in a different way. And I know it's your dreams that will make 2067 with a STEM education and a STEM career even something that I can't even imagine. And I wish you all the best. It's been my honor to speak with you today. Thank you.
I love that Jessica pulls inspiration from artists, from sports, so we hope that you all are pulling inspiration from all of these wonderful guests who are speaking to you today. And Jessica, the flying cars are out there. Wow, right? That's pretty cool. We have another guest that we're going to hear from right now. Our next speaker is another youth who came here today from Abbotsford, BC. We want to welcome Mac Smith.
Hey everyone. Raise your hand if you've ever had a hard hit on the head before. My name is Mac Smith. I'm 13 years old from Abbotsford, British Columbia, and I've been hit on the head many times, maybe too many times. Most of these hits have been from my favorite sport, hockey. As a player myself, when I get hit, I do not want to come off the ice, even when I'm hurt. When players like me keep on playing while injured, a secondary impact will cause a lot more damage as the player is vulnerable. If this secondary impact is to the head, it can easily cause a concussion. A concussion occurs when your brain hits the side of your skull after an impact, bruising it. There's been loads of research that shows that repeated concussions can cause long-term brain trauma. My experience with STEM started last year in grade 7 science when my awesome teacher, Mrs. Pichet, asked our class to think of a problem in their lives that they would like to solve. I wanted to find a way how to prevent secondary concussions from repeated impacts to the head. My idea was to put a light or buzzer on a helmet that would go off once a player received enough impact force to the head to cause a concussion. This would make sure that the player could come off the ice immediately and not get hit again. At first, I had no idea how to do this, and my very first prototype was an ice cream bucket. My mom gave me a $20 budget to solve this problem, and my dad helped me get some supplies. But I still didn't know how to code it. I had to find someone with knowledge in STEM. So I emailed an electrical engineer in my neighborhood, and he agreed to help me out at his lab in the University of the Fraser Valley. So I could prove that the Head Start concussion alert system could work. Now, it needs to be integrated into a helmet for further development and research. So I've been trying to contact companies who might be interested in my idea. So far, I've heard back from Bauer, which is a hockey brand, who forwarded my email to their product development department. I'm still waiting to hear if they want to help develop my idea. Hopefully, they'll get back to me. What I have learned from my experience with STEM is to dream big, ask for help from others, and don't give up. If I had not asked for help and emailed the electrical engineer in my neighborhood, I would have never gotten this far. Also, if I had given up after the ice cream bucket, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. So dream big. You never know where your dreams will take you. Thank you.
That's amazing. You've come a long way from the ice cream bucket, I would have to say. That's for sure. Keep dreaming. Okay, so we've sat here for a little while now, so we wanted to get you up and out of your seat, get the blood flowing a little bit. So I want to introduce Jennifer Evers from Groundswell Projects to run us through a quick activity for everyone. And you'll hear a lot from Jennifer this afternoon during our workshop. So let's introduce her now.
Hi, guys. Hello? Hello? You can hear me? Everybody stand up. We've been sitting for too long. We got to shake it up a bit. All right, all right. Okay, so I would normally like to do this with music, but we're not going to do it with music today. So if you're at home on a live stream or in school on a live stream, please stand up too. You've been sitting for a long time as well. Okay, we're going to play rock, paper, scissors, but we're going to do it with our bodies. So here's how you make a rock with your body. Can everybody try to make a rock? 1, 2, 3, rock. All right, paper. Paper looks like this. All right, excellent. Rock, paper, scissors. I know, you're tight, it's okay. All right, so what we're gonna do, I would really love for you to jump 3 times with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Next, we're gonna add a symbol. So let's do rock. Ready? 1, 2, 3, rock. Let's do scissors. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Let's do paper. 1, 2, 3. All right. I would like you to turn to the person beside you and introduce yourself. Okay. You just found your rock, paper, scissors partner. Okay. I'm going to count you guys in. You know how this goes. If you lose, sit down. If you win, keep going. Keep finding someone else close to you and keep playing. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go! Keep playing. Whoever's winning, keep playing. All right, thanks, guys. I hope. Oh, we're still going up front here. Who's left? Who's left? Anybody left? All right. You can sit down. Everyone can sit. That was awesome. I hope you feel a little more energized, a little more focused. We have a few more speakers for you, and then we'll get on with the rest of the day. Thanks.
Whew, it's all the jumping. That was good cardio. I think I pulled something doing the rock. Is okay? Okay, everyone's okay, and everyone's had a bit of a break, so thank you so much, Jen. We certainly enjoyed that. Our next speaker is a bit of a celebrity around here. He was an astronaut and is now the Chancellor of the university. Please welcome to the stage Robert Thirsk.
Good morning. I grew up in the 1960s, and it was a magical time to be young. There were events, happenings in my home, in my country, in my city, in the world that influenced me and directed the path that my education and my career went. 1967 was particularly dynamic. Canada was celebrating its 100th anniversary of Confederation. There was a mood in our country, a mood of optimism and of confidence as we were heading off into our second century. Every city, every town participated in the celebration. The city of Calgary, for example, developed the Centennial Planetarium and Science Center. But the national focus, understandably, was Expo 67, which was a world-class, large, international science fair and exposition. It was held in Montreal. Elsewhere in the world, there was other sentiments of aspiration. We had world leaders who had a global outlook, who said that we do things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. In 1961, the first human being ventured into space. And only 8 years later, humans walked on the moon. Mind-blowing. It was the arts and culture scene as well that influenced me. In particular, the music scene was very dynamic. It was creative. It was innovative. It was fast-paced. Groundbreaking album after groundbreaking album. We all loved it. Culture's fascination with spaceflight was nurtured by TV programs such as Star Trek and movies such as 2001: A Space Odyssey. They showed us what the nature of deep space exploration could be like, and they inspired us by saying that we should go where no one had ever gone before. There were other influences at home. My parents, they encouraged me to dream audacious dreams, but also to put a logical plan underneath my dreams. My school teachers, my university professors, they introduced me to new fascinating subjects, and they also encouraged me to go home and study more about the subject on my own. All of these influences converged, and they directed my educational path, my path that encouraged my self-interest in exploration, innovation, education. The path took me, first of all, to the University of Calgary, where I pursued a mechanical engineering degree. Then on to Boston and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where I did another mechanical engineering degree and later an MBA. And then finally on to Montreal and McGill University, where I did a medical degree. After my education, I joined the Canadian Space Agency, took my first space flight in 1996 aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia in a mission called the Life and Microgravity Space Lab mission. Myself and my 6 crewmates did 43 different experiments from around the world, experiments in life sciences and material sciences. This 17-day mission was a complete success. In 2009, I took a flight aboard a Russian Soyuz vehicle from Kazakhstan, launching from the very same launch pad as Yuri Gagarin had done 50 years prior. And without a doubt, the highlight of my career was a 6-month expedition aboard the International Space Station, again in 2009, where my 6 crewmates and I performed experiments in plant biology, animal biology, human physiology, materials processing, fluid physics, combustion science, medical demonstrations. Again, an incredible, incredible experience. What excites me about space exploration? Well, I can truthfully say that astronaut training and the spaceflight experience is challenging. Training in spaceflight takes me beyond those things that are easy to those things that are hard, that measures the best of my energies and my skills. On a weekly basis, I was challenged to the max, not just mentally, but physically and emotionally as well. What excites me about space exploration? What's an opportunity to work with the best organizations in the world, organizations that are visionary, that are not afraid to take risks. What excites me about space exploration? It allows me to work with cutting-edge technologies on a daily basis. I also get to work with the most talented people in the world as well. Colleagues who aspire to excellence and pay attention to great detail. And their pursuit of excellence inspires me to keep taking my performance, to keep taking my game to a higher level and enhancing my performance. What excites me about space exploration? Well, Canada is a nation of explorers. It's part of our national DNA. Your career, if you decide to pursue a career in human space exploration, will likely take you into deep space. 10 years from now, we will have a small space station near the moon. We're currently planning on that right now. 20 years from now, humans will be heading towards Mars. Mars right now is a frigid desert. It has an atmosphere that's only 1/100th the thickness of that on Earth. It's largely carbon dioxide. But we have recent evidence that shows that millions of years ago, there were large oceans of water at the time. So therefore, it could have harbored life at one time. It would be mind-blowing, the story of the 21st century, if the first astronauts find a fossil on Mars. And your career in space exploration in the next 50 years could take you to the ice moons of Jupiter and of Saturn. Ice moons Europa, Ganymede, Enceladus, where again we might find evidence of life in the subsea below the icy crust. There's still interesting scientific questions for you to answer. What's the nature of dark matter? Is there a chance that we're not alone? Are there other planets out there, Earth-like planets, that could harbor life? Are there planets out there that could harbor intelligent life? We still have many technologies yet to be developed. We need some of you to develop radiation protection devices for the astronauts who will venture into deep space. We need new radiation shielding mechanisms that can protect us. And heaven forbid, but if a future astronaut were to be exposed to large influxes of radiation, is there a treatment that we can develop to correct the DNA damage? We need to get rid of our dependence on chemical rockets, which are not cost-effective, which are technologically not very effective, and come up with new ways of launching humans and cargo into space, such as space elevators, yet to be designed. And we need to develop advanced horticultural technologies that will allow future astronauts, future Mars colonists, to develop, to grow, to process their own food. So that's an outline of what I suspect your career, if you choose to get involved in deep space, will be all about. If you decide that you would like to be involved in space education, space exploration, then I suggest that you pursue a career path that takes you into any scientific discipline, any technology discipline, any aviation discipline, any health discipline. Maintain your state of health, work on your state of fitness, work on those personality traits that are so important to the space program and to astronautics. Teamwork, followership, leadership, multicultural skills as well. And maintain that sense of adventure as well. Thank you, and may the force be with you.
That was so cool, such exciting information. What a life you have lived. What an incredible life. Some of the pictures there is like something out of a movie, right? So exciting, the time that you're all living in with the opportunity of exploring deep space. So cool. Before we move on to our next speaker, I want to play the trailers for Emerald Code, a new STEM-friendly web series made by the producers of Murdoch Mysteries that follows a group of teens dealing with high school life using 3D printing, drones, sensors, gaming, and coding. You may have caught some of these episodes on your way into the room. Its companion documentary series, Emerald Code, Decoded features real Canadian youth in their STEM pursuits. So enjoy.
Guys, is anyone on? Hello?
Simone, those are unreal.
My best invention yet. Anyone? Lana?
I'm appled up and on my way. The Mayfair Music Festival moved its submission deadline up by a month!
Bevan? Hello, SOS here.
Nobody's coming to my party because I missed a bug in my code. Who does that?
Jackson?
Jackson reporting live here from the lockers.
I told student council this would be perfect. Project Candygram needs everyone on the ground. In 3, 2...
I can't believe all this. I don't want to jump the gun, but we're getting an A+ at least.
Uh-oh, guys. No! Oh, what did you do?
Can I just say again, we have no time and no project? I can't just write we screwed up again.
Okay, let's do it.
Oh, thank you.
Super fun.
This is more than a hashtag. This is a movement.
You can get through this. You guys are great. I couldn't do this without you.
Hi, I'm Onwin, and you're watching Emerald Code Decoded. 10 students from across Canada achieving greatness in science, technology, engineering, and math.
My name is Rachel Brower, and I created a water pasteurization system. I've been researching how climate change is affecting the tundra ecosystem.
I created the Head Start concussion alert system. I built a project called the Follower Robot.
I did a project using a natural method to clean up oil spills.
And I invented a system to diagnose early breast cancer using
using saliva.
Something that I have felt very passionately about is especially trying to get more girls and more minorities in STEM, making sure that such a diverse range of researchers who are already doing research get out there and share their stories and share their experiences to show young people that anything is possible.
When I got the video that actually showed students holding my system and saying how they now had clean water, it was amazing. And you don't do things for recognition, you do them to actually see your goal and see your dream actually happen.
What inspires you? This is Emerald Code Decoded.
All right. So I hope you all check it out online. I've been doing a little bit of talking today, and this is where they tell me that I'm supposed to talk about myself. My job is not as cool as what everyone here has been talking about, so I will try to follow that. But I have heard words like passion, failure, problem solving, learning, and it's so interesting how all of that still applies to my job as well. I was really excited about science in high school. I did well, I was interested in it. I took calculus as an option. Don't knock it till you try it, it was fun. I stuck with it, did well. And then I went to U of A. I have my science degree from the U of A. Somewhere in the middle of that degree, I started thinking about television and realized that I've always been interested in television, but my interest in science kind of got to me first. And I realized I watched talk shows growing up. I loved the news. I loved learning about science on TV. Bill Nye the Science Guy was my hero. And so I kind of made a turn in my career, but I finished science because I really wanted to have my degree and have something to fall back on. As television, I mean, even today compared to when I started, is in such a different place right now because of the internet. So I'm glad I got my degree, but right now I actually have come full circle and I have a talk show, which is really cool. Even yesterday I was interviewing bobsled gold medalist Justin Cripps, which was just so cool. And I still, like I said, all of those things that I had with me when I was studying in the sciences and all the things I've heard our guests speak about today, passion, failure, problem solving, all still pertain to me today. We have to create stories every day, daily deadline. That means getting our interviews, doing the research, editing the story, and getting it on the 6 p.m. news. I don't always make it, and that's where the failure sets in, and that's okay. And then tomorrow's another day, or I continue to build the story. It might take a few days. Also learning, I'm talking to different people every day from different walks of life, from different careers. It's really interesting. I'm usually in their offices. I'm in their office buildings. We get to travel. I've followed everything from tornadoes, floods, avalanches. So natural disasters have actually taken me to different places. And to hear from people who are so resilient and who've bounced back from, so just people's stories. I really do well with sharing people's stories. And so that's kind of where my career path took me, but still very interested in science. And like I said, those skills are still very, very important for me today in the job that I do every day. So thanks for hearing a little bit about what I do, and so exciting to hear about what all of our guests have been doing in their careers. And we're going to hear from another speaker right now, Winnica Beltrano. She's a student at the University of Calgary and also the founder and executive director, Project Pulse Winnipeg. We want to welcome Winnica to the stage.
Who here has ever been in this situation? You're about to submit an assignment, an email, or an application, but you can't quite get yourself to press send. And yeah, I've seen myself in that situation a lot. And while it is important to proofread your submissions for mistakes, it also becomes increasingly important to actually press that send button. And the reason why I'm asking this is because the courage that emerges from experiences like these really helps to open limitless opportunities, especially when it comes to STEM. And if the elements can spell it out, you can too. And so thinking about my personal connection with STEM, I realized that I've been in a lot of moments like these where I've had to really build up the courage to try something new, even if it meant there was a little uncertainty involved. And so over the years, I've participated in a few science fairs looking at measuring antioxidant levels in different vitamin C sources, using plants to measure or decrease the levels of phosphorus in Lake Winnipeg, which is where I'm from, and also to developing a manual for a tractography program that looks at visualizing fibers in brain mouse samples. And here's some more pictures of that program I got to work with. And so in 2015, I also participated in chat here at the University of Calgary, and in 2015, in the same year, I started Project Pulse Winnipeg, which is an annual conference that aims to connect high school students with healthcare professionals and students in the field. And so these experiences led to some medals and awards here and there, and also the opportunity to present my tractography project at the Canada-wide Science Fair in 2015. But as I reflect on these experiences, I realized that my courage and willingness to take risks played a big role in the outcome of these experiences. I remember emailing potential mentors, feeling so nervous and composing emails, thinking I would be rejected before even hitting send. However, over the years, I've learned that in reality, what science mentors look for is just that true desire to learn, regardless of your background experience sometimes. And when it came to Project Pulse Winnipeg, I remember feeling so excited at the potential to be able to empower high school students all across the city to pursue a path in health sciences. And for me, that was enough motivation to lead an initiative, a startup initiative that continues to grow today. And so a big lesson that I've learned from all of this is that sometimes you really just have to get that courage, build it up, and just go for it. Take a deep breath and dive in without looking back. By freely exploring your interests, embracing uncertainty, and moving forward with a purpose and drive, you can really open the door to limitless opportunities at your fingertips. And so to conclude, I encourage you to be bold and to simply press send. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winnica. Next up, we have some words from one of our regional sponsors. I'd like to introduce Tyler Edgington, President of Dow Canada, to come up to say a few words.
So good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many young, enthusiastic people today. Why don't you give yourself a round of applause for all the great speakers. Let me put this down. So my name is Tyler Edgington. I am the president for Dow Canada, not for the whole company, but for the country. But I want to take you back in time about 120 years ago. So do any of you know anyone that was alive back in 1897? So don't say your teachers. No, that's not that. So our founder, Herbert H. Dow, started Dow in 1897 with a really simple philosophy of doing it better. Really striving to make the best products, but not only that, but really understanding the chemistry behind it. It's been great to hear so many of the presentations have a chemistry theme. So when we first started, we made bleach. Okay, so that's not the most technologically advanced product out there, but you got to imagine, we made this in an old flour mill, so that's how we got our roots. But now we make all over the world. We have plenty of plants and incredible range of products, many that you probably haven't even heard of. But I'm happy to say that none of them are made anymore in an old flour mill. But I want you to think about something. I want to give you a word and see what kind of feelings come to mind. So when I say the word chemicals, what do you think about? What words come to mind? Are they positive? Is it negative? What do you think about? So let me ask you a different word. What about when I say the word chemistry? Let's see, by a show of hands, do you have a more positive impression of the word chemistry than chemicals? So I've got another question for you. Have you ever heard of, this is some scary stuff. There is a chemical out there called dihydrogen monoxide, or DHMO. This stuff is scary. Some of the known perils of it is accidental inhalation can kill you. It's a major component of acid rain, and it can contribute to soil erosion, and it can also corrode many metals. All right, I'm sure I didn't fool many of you guys because you guys are armed with the power of STEM, but dihydrogen monoxide is just water. And so it's just another, so that's a pretty silly example, but really I think it makes an important point. is that education is really necessary to separate fact from fiction, and that conventional wisdom's not always so wise. You know, powerful stories sometimes can be more persuasive than getting in and really understanding the science and the facts behind things. The reality is that chemistry plays a critical role in improving the lives of every single person on this planet. I think we've seen some of that in some of the other presentations. But the key is to do it safely, responsibly, and sustainably. So at Dow, this is one of our real core values, is sustainability. So we want to deliver solutions that advance the well-being of humanity, but do it in a sustainable way. So what does that look like? Well, we've created water treatment solutions that create clean water for remote nations, something that all of us in this room probably take for granted. We've developed a variety of technologies that reduce our impact on the planet, for instance, biodegradable soaps and shampoos, packaging that's not only recyclable, but also keeps your food fresh longer and reduces food waste. So I got another question for you. Anybody in the room have a smartphone? Probably just about everybody. So Dow creates this really cool thing. It's an ultra-pure solvent that goes into the microchip in your cell phone, and it makes increases the processing speed and lowers the battery consumption, really makes your phone work a whole lot better. Anybody watch the Olympics recently? Did you see the Canadian, the women's hockey team win the silver? I know it should have been gold. It should have been gold. It was a good game, though. So, you know, think about the ice that they're skating on. Okay, it's ice, right? Not a whole lot of technology. Actually, so Dow has a heat transfer fluid that we do to all the ice rinks, so not just hockey, but all the rinks, and it keeps the ice at a perfect temperature, and it makes it ideal for skating in terms of hockey, figure skating, speed skating, so just ice, you know, think about that. Most of the things that you guys think about, there's a lot more technology and a lot of times chemistry that goes into making it. So how did Dow go from a company that started in an old flour mill to where we are today? Well, it's thanks to the innovation and the great minds that have worked for Dow before me, but also the many people that I get to work with on a daily basis. I mean, we have some scary smart people at Dow, and it's just amazing. So those minds are always asking themselves, how can we do what we're doing, but do it better? How can we do it, but make it more sustainable? How can we use all our skills and our technology to really make the world a better place? So really, to answer these important questions, we need more people like the ones that are here in this room. Great minds, curious minds, scientific minds, all that have a passion for STEM. And the journey doesn't start in college or university. It really starts here. Actually, it starts, you know, sooner than here, but I mean right here today. So let's take advantage of today. So that's why I'm so excited to see all of you here today. Really take advantage of this summit and walk away inspired. I mean, I think we've had some inspiring speakers, and you see that science can take you in a multitude of directions. So really enjoy it. I'm hoping there's some future Dow employees here in the room, because we could always use smart minds. I'd love to talk to you more about it. We do have a few volunteers in the rooms. Maybe raise your hands. We have a couple people with Dow shirts on in the back that'll be helping us out. So anyway, thanks for the opportunity, and let's have a great summit, and let's see what the power of STEM can do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Very interesting. We have a couple more guest speakers to hear from, and then we're going to hear from all of our guests, and you can ask them anything you like. Next up, we have Brittany Marchand, who is a successful LPGA golf pro. We want to welcome Brittany to the stage.
So, when you think of an engineer, are these the pictures you see in your mind? Or have you ever thought about engineering and pictured this? Roll clip. I'm sure you probably haven't thought of that before, but I want you for the next 5 minutes to transform how you think about sport and how STEM can actually give you a leg up too. My name is Brittany Marchand, and I'm a professional golfer on the LPGA Tour. Yes, I earn a living playing the sport that I love. So I'm sure at this point you're thinking, why on earth are you here? And I get that. However, I actually graduated in 2015 with a degree in chemical engineering. So even though I'm not in a typical engineering job now, I do believe that my background in STEM and engineering has helped me become more successful at my sport. I've also been shocked to find out just how many STEM-related jobs there are in the world of sports. So first, I want to talk to you just about how much science is integrated into sport, and especially into the game of golf. So here are just a few examples. There's projectile motion. So each club has a loft, and that loft launches the ball at a certain angle. A very high launch angle means the ball will land shorter, and a much lower launch angle will mean the ball will go further. There's also aerodynamics. Obviously, the ball travels through the air, so it has to be designed to be as aerodynamic as possible. Those dimples on the golf ball actually reduce the drag and increase the lift, making the ball move through the air more efficiently. There's also friction. So when you look at a club face, you see grooves along it. Those grooves increase the amount of friction when the club face hits the ball. That actually spins the ball backwards and helps the ball land softer onto the green. I honestly could talk hours about how much physics is in golf, but I think you're starting to see just how advantageous it is to already have a knowledge or understanding of these principles when you're learning the game or trying to get better. Now I want to talk to you about how the athlete can use physics or science to improve their performance as well. So some of you might know that one of the biggest goals in golf is to hit the ball as far as you can. So how do you think you achieve this? Well, it goes back to science. You need to be able to transfer all the energy that you create with your body to the ball at impact. So there are a couple ways you can do this. The first thing is I work out. So I work out to continue to get stronger and faster. And this allows me to accelerate through the golf swing and increase the amount of force I'm putting on the ball. There's also a rotational force that you can create through the golf swing, and that's called torque. So torque is created in the golf swing when you create separation between your upper and your lower body. So when I'm moving in my downswing, if I move my lower body before I move my upper body, I create space between the two. And that's essentially energy or tension that's built up that I can then transfer down to the ball and make the ball go further. So here's a really cool way that I actually use technology in order to track those movements I do in my golf swing. So I put on this vest, a waist sensor and a hand sensor, and I hit balls. And then a graph like this one's created. And it shows my hip movement, my shoulder movement, and my hand movement. And from there, I can analyze with my coaches how well I'm moving my body, how efficient I'm moving it, if I'm creating that separation, etc. It's pretty cool, right? So I want you to think about your favorite sport or the sport you play. Are you starting to see ways that science is integrated into the game? So now you think, who created all this cool stuff? Who created the vests that I put on to track my movements? Or who created this golf club in my hand? Well, it's all engineers and scientists. They are behind everything that I use in golf, and that applies to all different sports. There are textile engineers who create the water-repellent material for the jacket I wear out in the rain. There are mechanical engineers who are constantly changing and improving the design of golf clubs in order to improve their performance. There are even teams of scientists who use cool technology like robots to test out new equipment. And the robots are used to create the exact same testing conditions each time. The jobs are endless, really, in all different sports. So that's why if you're interested in pursuing a sport, or you just love sports in general, I still encourage you to get as much knowledge in STEM as possible. You might not end up wanting to turn pro one day, but you could still stay connected to the game by helping to improve it and make it better. So I hope that in these last 5 minutes, I've given you just one more way that studying STEM can apply to so many different fields of work. Science is constantly changing the world of sport. Whether you're the athlete using science to improve their performance, or you're the engineer using STEM to create new technology or equipment, STEM and sport go hand in hand. And in my case, the blend of both STEM and sport has allowed me to live a life with both of my passions into one job, which I think is pretty amazing. So I encourage you to stay fit, stay active, and study hard, because sorry, and I have a quote to leave you with. You're confined only by the walls you build yourself. Really, the sky is the limit with STEM. And I think that if you continue with your knowledge and you continue to love sport, it's important to stay active, study hard, and stay fit. Thank you.
Really goes to show you science is behind everything, isn't it? I wouldn't have thought that. That's so cool, Brittany. And now I can tell my husband I'm a bad golfer because I have a biology degree. See, I needed more physics is what I needed. Our next guest, our last speaker for today, is Linda Thomas. She's the Senior VP of Commercial Finance from Shaw Communications, and we are going to welcome Linda to the stage for a few words.
Thank you, Bindu, and hi, everybody. I'm Linda Thomas, very proud to be here from Shaw Communications, a company connecting Canadians through our wireless, internet, and video and telephone products. And as a Senior Vice President of Shaw, very proud to be sponsoring the event. As a board member for Let's Talk Science, couldn't be more proud of the organization. And as a mathematics grad from the University of Waterloo, feel very connected to this topic, so very proud to be here today. Today's about you. It's about each of you and how you can make a difference in our future through your work going forward through your careers. One of you in this room could be the developer of the next technology platform, something bigger than Facebook, bigger than Instagram, bigger than Snapchat, changing the way the world connects and the way people interact with each other. Another one of you might become a researcher that figures out cures and prevention for diseases that are still emerging and we don't even really realize or understand how they work today. Another one of you could be working in our communities, figuring out clean transit systems and figuring out perhaps how to use advanced analytics to optimize food and ensure that we minimize wastage and that every child and citizen of our communities is fed with healthy food. The possibilities are endless. And the point about today is for each of you to enjoy a big space and a chance to dream and think about the future and think about yourself in that world and how you can leverage science, technology, engineering, and math and make a difference in our community, our city, our country, our planet, the world, Mars. The opportunities are truly endless. So we're very excited to have such a bright group of students in the room today and very proud to be sponsoring the important work that Let's Talk Science does. So we hope you enjoy the day and leave here feeling engaged, inspired, excited about the difference that you can make in our future. And thank you for the time and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Linda. So glad to have you here today, and that is key, right? Walk away here feeling inspired for sure. Now, before we take your questions for all of our speakers, I do want to give some shout outs to some other organizations that made everything that happened today possible. Canada 2067 is presented by Let's Talk Science with founding partners Amgen Canada, the Trottier Family Foundation, Hill and Knowlton Strategies, and 3M Canada. National sponsors include the governments of Canada and Ontario, Nelson Education, Bayer, Samsung Canada, and Toyota Canada Foundation. And thanks to our regional Calgary event sponsors with our lead Shaw Canada, Bayer regionally, Dow, Fluor, Chevron, Apega, Genome BC, and Best Buy Canada. Thank you to the University of Calgary for hosting us today. And thank you to Institute Without Boundaries at George Brown College and Groundswells Projects for creating our workshops that we will be participating in this afternoon. And finally, thank you to the Calgary Board of Education for getting all of you here today. And now I want to start putting people in the hot seat because that's what I do, right? I'm a journalist and I put everyone in the hot seat, and that includes all of our guests. So we're going to get our guests to come up here on stage and take a seat. Now, you may have noticed that your mobile app allows opportunities for you to engage in group conversations, and you can write in your questions. So for the next 25 minutes or so, it's your turn to ask questions, and we also have a few microphones in the audience. So if you do have a question, just raise your hand, and they will find you, and we'll come to you for those of you who want to talk. And I'll kick things off by asking a couple of questions from the live stream. I'm going to grab my phone. We have all the questions. And I heard we have some really great questions coming in, actually. So And please, if anyone wants to jump in, I may ask one person in particular, but if anyone else wants to jump in, please feel free to. Everyone has to talk. All right. So the first question we have is for Robert Thirsk. And the question is, what challenges did you overcome? This is from the live stream. What challenges did you overcome to become an astronaut? And I think they're asking from, this is from Ontario. It's from public school in Ontario. They're asking, what challenges did you overcome to become an astronaut?
Well, I encourage all young people to at least consider a career in space, but you have to realize that the chances of actually flying in space are relatively small. When I first applied, there was 4,000 other people that applied to become a Canadian astronaut at the same time. So a lot of good luck was involved, being in the right place in the right time. But as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I had a dream, and I worked on that dream, putting in an educational path that looked appealing to the selection committee. So the odds were small. Not all dreams come true. One dream in my life did come true. There's a lot of other dreams. I wished to become a professional athlete as well. That didn't come true, but I did fly in space eventually one day, and that was very fulfilling.
And again, we do have the microphones in the audience, and I just want to see if anyone has a question. Is there someone? Okay, oh, I saw a hand go up really quickly there. So I'll just run over and hand you the microphone. What's your question?
Wow. This is for Mr. Robert Thirsk. Can I call you Mr. Robert Thirsk? Yeah? Sorry. You're a bomber? It's fire. How did you get that? Like, is that a part of, like, I don't know, is it symbolize something? Like, it's really nice.
What is hot? What is great?
Oh,
the jacket.
So he loves your jacket.
It's fire.
Talk about your jacket.
Yeah. So I mentioned to you that training is very challenging, and the training can actually be risky as well. We fly in high-performance aircraft. We live underwater, under a saturated situation. And so this is my training flight suit. So if there is a fire in an aircraft, the material of this flight suit will protect me for a period of time. Also, it has probably a dozen pockets on it as well. So I put my maps in here. I put my Swiss Army knife and pens and things as well. So it's for protection, and it's for utility, but I'm also glad to hear that you think it looks cool.
We all think it looks cool. That's awesome. Thank you for that. I have a question we have teenagers on the panel here, but for the ones who are not teenagers, you know who you are, I want to know what advice you would give your teenage self. Maybe we'll start here on the end.
Wow, yeah, that's a good one. How do you know I'm not a teenager?
Like I said, I wasn't naming names.
Yeah, my teenage self. You know, when I think back, again, I explained how entering into post-secondary, you usually have possibilities of scholarships coming your way that are directing you into engineering or science or medical or whatever. And I think, you know, honestly, for me, it was. Probably needed to have more open mind coming out of a small school and going into a large school. And yeah, I would just tell myself to not think so narrow. And there's so much out there. So.
Jessica, although you look like a teenager, Jessica?
Thank you very much. As a teenager, as many of you may feel, I often felt angry and sad and alone. I grew up in rural Alberta, which wasn't always an easy life. And so the advice I would give is find friends. Don't put too much thought and weight into what other people think of you and label you, but find people that accept you for who you are.
Does anyone else want to take that question? Anything you'd tell your teenage self?
I would say just to enjoy the moment that you're in the moment you're in now. Enjoy it, be always in the present. I think I was always, the way that school is structured and the way that the society goes now is always thinking about the future and you know, wanting to make sure you're doing things to succeed and get further, and you have to do that. But I think really enjoying the moment that you're in and just realizing, you know, enjoy high school and enjoy being a kid and do that, because then when you get to college, it gets harder and it sucks more. So then you look back at high school like, man, life was so easy. And that's like, I was so excited to get out of college, and then I got out of college and now I'm like, oh, life was so easy in college, you know? So it's always, instead of always looking ahead and worrying about getting further, I think just really take in these moments, like something like this, you know, just really live it and be in the present.
Okay, so I have another question here. This is from Mrs. Everett's grade 7 class. They want to know, and anyone can answer this, are there any books that inspired you to follow a path into a STEM career? Can you guys think of any books that you read that might have inspired you? Rahul, I see you're thinking there. Did you read books on math? Like, did you read anything that...
Yeah, I did read books on math, actually. I read a lot as a kid. And, you know, it's interesting because in school, I think especially at the point at which many of you are at right now in grade 9, math can sometimes be follow this procedure, do this algorithm, so on and so forth. But it was maybe actually reading those books you're making me realize that helped me shift my perspective. I read a book on Fermat's last theorem and on principles and problem solving in math that describe math as not just procedures, but as stories, as something that actually happens in the real world with people involved that can be used to solve impactful and meaningful problems. I don't know if there's a single book that comes to mind for me, unfortunately, but there is a really broad field of math literature out there, and it doesn't sound exciting, but it actually really is.
Very interesting. I'm going to go back out into the audience now, and anyone watching on the web as well. We're still taking your questions, so feel free to fire them our way. Who has a question? Okay, I see a few hands. Who are you closest to, or who do you want to run over to? Okay, let's see a hand. Where's a hand? Right over there? Okay, yep, you got it.
Hi, I have a question for Max. Regarding your helmet bucket, was that your first concussion that you ever had that you decided to do that on? And do you still play hockey?
Well, I've had multiple concussions, which has made me vulnerable for more concussions as I play hockey. And so, yeah, after it was my second concussion that was in hockey, that's when I decided to start my ice cream bucket. And yeah, I do still play hockey.
Just looking out to the, there's a hand right there, right behind you. Just point. Oh, okay, you have the microphone.
Yeah, this is for anybody. What advice would you give for someone that wants to follow their dreams and do what they want to do?
Choose agriculture.
That was choose agriculture. No bias there.
I would say stick with it. It's not always an easy path, and as I mentioned in my talk, learn how to fail, but keep with it. Surround you with people who have the same dream, and you'll all get there together.
Was there ever a point where any of you wanted to give up on your dream?
Definitely.
Robert, did you ever want to give up?
No, to answer the gentleman's question, I think in addition to what we've already talked about choosing educational path in science, technology, engineering, or math, that's very helpful. You have to be persistent as well. So to answer your question, no, I never lost sight of my dream. Ideal jobs don't fall out of the sky. They don't fall into your lap. You have to be persistent. You have to be determined, and so keep at it.
We have a question from grade 6 students from Midnapore School. They want to know about your education backgrounds. So for the panelists, anyone can answer this one. What was high school like for the panelists, and how long did you go to university for? So just your educational background. Yeah, go ahead.
Start out. So I went all 12 years in the same school in a town of about 1,000 people. And then I went to University of Alberta and took an undergrad in crop science and soil science, 4 years. And then I was out into the real world.
So.
See, I didn't know there was crop science. That's very interesting. Is everyone here, well, going to university and has been to university degree? Okay. I was curious to know, Brittany, you mentioned that you have a university degree. I did too, and then went into TV. Was golf always kind of on the radar for you? Was that something that happened before you got your degree?
Yeah, I dreamed of being on the LPGA since I was about 12, 13 years old. So that was my first kind of, I knew that's what I wanted to do when I was younger. However, I also knew I had a passion for math and science since I was, my grade 1 yearbook, my favorite experience of the year, math. My favorite thing, math. What did you take from this year? Math. Like I loved math and science. So I always had that passion, but I knew I wanted to be an athlete. So then when I was going through high school, I knew that the next step for me for golf was to try to get a golf scholarship into the United States. And so I pursued with golf, trying to, get better to be able to get a scholarship. But I also, continued in what I liked to study in high school. So I continued to take math and science. And I had a really great physics professor who just said, you'd be a really good engineer. I'm like, oh, well, I guess so. I don't know. I really like physics. I really like math. And then when I got a scholarship to the University of North Carolina, North Carolina State University, big discrepancy there. I decided it was a really good engineering school, and I decided that I wanted to study chemical engineering from there, even though that was not that was kind of frowned upon in the athlete side of things. It's really hard to balance both. And my coach she was very supportive, but I'm sure she was hesitant. So that was definitely interesting, but I stuck with it because I figured, I could injure myself tomorrow, and what would I want to do with my life outside of golf? And that was keeping in STEM. So as much as it was hard, and I ended up taking 5 years to do my degree, I took the first 4 years and I played for the team, and then my last year I was a volunteer assistant. I continued my scholarship and I finished my degree, but I knew that at the end I was still going to turn professional. I just wanted to have that backup, I guess you'd say, that if when I stopped golfing, I had an option to work in a field that I was really interested in.
Something to fall back on. Good advice. And I see a hand over here in the middle of the crowd in front of us. Do you want to say your name and which school you're from?
I'm from Calgary Academy. I'm Arcia. But I had a question for all the cancer researchers, and so my question was so hypothetically speaking, if the cure for cancer came out, wouldn't it put all the researchers, doctors, nurses, and all the other companies out of business?
I can try to speak to this a little bit, and I don't know if only having a couple of years of experience, I'd consider myself a cancer researcher at this point. But one common misconception around cancer is that it's one disease with one cure. In fact, it's a collection of so many different diseases that differ by where it is in the body, what type of tissue it comes from. And even within, say, your breast cancer, there's so many different subtypes of breast cancer. And so I think speaking of a cure to cancer, a single cure to cancer, isn't necessarily representative of the reality of how diverse the disease is and how challenging the treatment process is. And so as a bit of a roundabout way of answering your question, I don't think there's a cure to cancer that's being hidden, so to speak. It's just that it's an incredibly complex disease. And we are making progress in some areas, not so much others. Certain forms of early-stage testicular cancer have been quote-unquote cured. We've made a lot of progress on those, whereas pancreatic cancer is far from it.
I see a hand here, and I know my back is kind of towards the right side here, so I'm going to look out in this direction, and I see your hand just in the middle here. And then we'll get to you next. Sorry about that. We'll get to you next.
I'm a parent-born volunteer, so I just have a question for, my name's Hamera. I wanted to ask about your aha moment. You all speak about STEM being part of everyday life. I'd like you to share when, for example, Rahul, math is beyond arithmetic. So I would like you to share how you realized that aha moment, because that is, I think, a hurdle for the generation that you're speaking to right now. Perhaps not everybody, but generally.
An aha moment, I think it's hard to speak to just one moment. I think, as I touched on when I was talking, it's more so a perspective shift that takes place not over the course of a moment, but over the span of months, possibly years. And what that perspective shift has to do with, I think, at least for me, it was about the whole curiosity piece, about starting to question everything around me, trying to break it down and understand, like the example Sophie used, why do the petals on flowers arrange in this way? How can we describe that? And realizing that ultimately at the core of that was math and science. And so to answer your question, maybe instead of an aha moment for me, it was a shift in perspective when I started to thinking critically about the world around me and realized what was really at the root of that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Jessica?
So for me, as I mentioned, I grew up on a farm. I had to take 2 school buses, transferred in the middle of a field to get to our high school, which was very small. And so at our school, it wasn't very common that people went to university. And if you did, it was for professions like to become a teacher, doctor, or lawyer. And so I had planned to go into the medicine field, not knowing anything about engineering. But someone came to our chemistry class in grade 11 and said, "This is what engineering is." And I said, "Well, that's way better than medicine. I don't want to work on people. I'd rather work on machines and mechanisms." And so just learning what paths are out there, visiting universities, coming to events like this, listening to speakers, and having them come to your classroom and talk about different options is so important. I had no idea what engineering even was until I was older.
Also, to add to that, there isn't one specific aha moment always. It isn't like, oh, this is the career I will take and I will take this forever. And it doesn't have to be about a big life decision. You can get really excited about something small and you go, hey, I like that. In my projects, I get really happy when someone finally gets back to me, and that's kind of an aha moment for that year or for that month. But I don't know if I'm ever going to get one big aha moment that says, I know exactly what I'm going to do in my life. And I think that other people might be able to relate to that.
I'm just going to look over here because I think there were some hands up. Yeah, there you go.
I'm from Mount Royal School, and I was just wondering, this is for everyone, I was just wondering what motivates you to do what you do? What gets you out of bed in the morning? And why is it you do what you do?
So for me, originally when I worked in the oil sands and research, I wanted to expand the world of knowledge. I wanted to discover something new and create something new. And so for me, that satisfied me for 10 years, and I really did enjoy that job. I now work for Apega, the professional regulatory body that licenses engineers and geoscientists. And that switch for me, it's still in the world that I love, engineering, but I had 2 kids, and when you have kids, that shifts your perspective, and I wanted to help people, and I wanted to help other engineers in geoscience. So I joined the organization of Apega. Mm-hmm.
We have a question here from the live stream, and it's, did you have a particular mentor or person who really inspired you to follow STEM? I'll start with, how about Winnica? Did you want to say something on that?
Yeah, so in my grade 12 year, I had this opportunity of conducting a science fair project, and my mentor was Dr. Marchand from the University of Winnipeg. And so it was in the field of physics and medical physics, and it was something that was kind of scary to me, I have to admit, at the beginning, because my marks weren't super high in physics in high school, but I just thought I'd dive in and see what I would learn from this experience. And that project led to me placing in the top positions at my regional science fair and going to the Canada-wide science fair. And so that experience, although it was really daunting and scary at first, it really opened a lot of doors for me. And so just taking and seizing that opportunity when there's someone there who wants to help you out, and to also see what kind of knowledge you have and that's available to the scientific community, just being able to seize those opportunities, because you never know what you'll get out of it. And so I encourage you to seek mentorship wherever you can find it.
Does anyone have a mentor that really stood out for them that they wanted to mention? Yeah, go ahead, Mac.
I didn't just have one mentor. I had many mentors, from my parents to my teachers to the electrical engineer in my neighborhood who helped me out with my project, and to even like my sister who helped me get into the science fair at first. So I don't think it's really a particular one mentor that helped me out throughout the process. Many people helped me out, and more people will keep helping me out as I keep developing my idea.
And that's good for mentors to hear as well. They're making a difference. We have a question from the audience here.
Hi. I just had a question that can be answered by any of the speakers. When you're growing up, do you have any mentors that drives you to pursue any careers you might have had, or any dreams that led you to become the person you are today, that inspired you to pursue STEM? It's sort of like the past question, but it could be like role models, not mentors.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Not surprisingly, a lot of my role models or mentors when I was young were those scientists and engineers and astronauts who had gone before me. So Neil Armstrong would be a really good example, because he had the technical skills to take on a very ambitious mission plan, but he also had the personality traits as well to be successful as well. As I became a professional astronaut, other astronauts, Bob Crippen, Mark Garneau, who I upheld as being on the top plane of space operations, became the aspiration for me. And then one other thing is I enjoy reading. And what I would encourage you to do is read the biographies or autobiographies of some of the early explorers. So another explorer that helped to develop Canada was Sir Alexander Mackenzie, who on his first trek across Canada made a major screw up. He was trying to get to the Pacific Ocean, and he ended up going up to the Arctic Ocean. He realized it was his own fault, his lack of training. He went back to England, got trained, and then he successfully did it the second time. We talked about persistence and determination a minute ago. So I'd encourage you to read the biographies of some of the early Canadian explorers. If spaceflight had existed in the days of David Thompson, Simon Fraser, La Vérendrye, Sir Alexander Mackenzie, they would have been really good astronauts.
Here's one from a live stream that anyone can answer. They want to know, if you had a chance to change your career path, what would you change? Warren? You're giggling.
Man, I've been so blessed. Not a whole lot. I would say that, I probably that first year at university just about did me in, but I probably just would have went right into agriculture. But what strikes me is when I started my first business, it took a lot of courage. You've got a paycheck coming in every 2 weeks. You've got security. You've got somewhat fixed hours, and to leave that took probably a good 12 months of mental work. I wish I would have done it sooner. I wish I would have left sooner. I had ideas, and you're going to have ideas in your head. You're going to see problems, and you're going to want to solve them. And honestly, I could have started that business when I was 22. So.
Anyone else? Anything you'd change in your career path? Any regrets even?
I think it's important to mention that you're not set on one singular path. You don't have to decide today what's your path on your way to when you turn 50. Your path is what you make it, and you can change it at any time. I want to be an engineer and be involved in the engineering professions, but how I do that and when I do it and who I do that with is under my control. And it's under your control too. You can change your mind at any time.
I'm going to go out into the audience again. We are pointing which way? Whose hand? I think someone has a microphone. Yeah, okay, right there. Okay, never mind. It's this side. Someone grab a microphone. Here you go.
This is a question for Mr. Thirsk here. What was one of the more challenging things to get used to when you were aboard the Soyuz and the ISS and that?
Life in space is surreal, but also magical. It seems like there's different laws of physics run up there. Of course, there isn't, but it seems like that. First of all, the Soyuz vehicle is a very cramped vehicle. So there's 3 of us. This is very spacious here. The 3 of us have to put shoulder to shoulder and live like that for 2 days after launch all the way up to orbit. So there's pains in your legs and in your knees and in your hips that you develop after a couple of days of doing that. We arrived at the International Space Station. Suddenly we were moving into something that seemed like a hotel. There was so much space inside. For the first week or so, I had to mentally tell myself to control my movements, control my flailing arms and legs. You can't swim in space, so it just doesn't help. And I had to make sure that I didn't hurt my crewmates and I didn't kick and damage a $1 million piece of equipment. So learning to move around, that took a couple of weeks before I felt like I was born there.
Okay, there's a question right here.
I was just wondering, what are some of the difficulties with growing food in zero gravity and on other planets?
Great question. Hopefully you'll get involved in that. Well, just think of a couple things. Think of a plant growing on Earth. Why does the stem grow up and why do the roots grow down? It's largely got to do because of gravity. In a weightless environment, the roots don't know where to go. And if you look at a plant that is trying to grow in space, it's a tangled mess. Also think about pollination. If you want to reproduce plants, you need insects, you need bees in order to help with that pollination process. That doesn't exist in space unless you develop some other way of pollinating plants. And then think about the soil that plants grow in. Their Earth soil has evolved over time such that it's very conducive to the plants. The soil of Mars is not, it's toxic, and so we're going to have to make modifications to the soil of Mars or evolve plants so that they can grow in the soil of Mars. So there's innumerable ones. Oh, and maybe the last one to mention is that the light incidence, the illumination of sunlight on plants in Mars is quite a bit reduced, about half that of on Earth. So there's a number of challenges there.
So I like this one from the live stream. This is interesting. They want to know, this is for anyone, how did you keep motivated to do what you do when you have people telling you it's too hard and that only a small amount of people can actually do it?
For me, so one of the things I'm super passionate about is being able to increase STEM and health science resources for high school students. And so for me, what I use as motivation is to never forget who you're impacting and never forget the audience that you can actually reach with your efforts. And so just always keeping that internally and always reminding yourself the potential impact that you can make on a lot of people. I use that as motivation every day to keep going.
Mac, you're quite young. Have you ever had someone say to you, you shouldn't be doing this, don't bother, and how do you respond?
Well, originally, I never really started doing STEM till 3 years ago, and I always thought that I wanted to be an athlete or something like that. But over time, I've decided that as I went to Canada-wide Science Fair and stuff, I've kind of thought that I could do anything within science and STEM and not just athletics. And no one has really told me that I can't do what I've done. But it's just the transition from not knowing STEM to going into STEM, which was kind of hard at first, but now I really enjoy it.
You saw the opportunity there. Warren, did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I was just going to say everyone gets motivated by different things. Some people, money motivates them. Some people, long-term vision and purpose motivate them. But often we're motivated by a challenge. And when you hear a comment like that, or you say, well, what keeps you motivated, what keeps you going, or I don't think you should be pursuing that. Proving someone wrong is actually quite a bit of fun, and accepting that as a challenge. And the neat thing when I look out is most of the careers and the jobs that this group is going to hold are actually not anything similar to what we've talked about. We can't even imagine what that will look like.
I think we have time for one more question. We'll go to this side of the room here. Go ahead.
My name is Zaim, and I'm from Mount Royal Junior High School. And I have a question for Warren, actually. So I was wondering, so do you think the future of agriculture is just going to be like making new alternatives for better agriculture, or is it going to be improving on these already placed alternatives?
Yeah, so I think I understood the question, and there's two categories in agriculture. One is innovation, which is essentially doing things better than we did them before, and the second is disruption, which is actually changing the way that we do things. Agriculture is going through a heavy period of innovation right now. There are some signs that there's some potential disruption in place in certain parts of agriculture. Categories of farming, vertical farming, things like that. Growing food in space where there's abundance of room and bringing that food back down to earth. I would say, yeah, the neat thing about agriculture is it's in that exponential growth, and everything exponential starts off flat. But at some point you hit that heel and you hit that exponential, and we're really there. We're really at the heel of that. So hopefully that answers your question.
Some great, great questions. Thank you everyone in the audience here for joining us to share your questions, and everyone on our panel to share your experiences, and everyone out there watching on the web as well. We appreciate everything. A big round of applause, please, for all of our guests today. I hope you all really walk away with some inspiration, and hopefully you've learned something. I know I have, and I thought I was just the moderator, and I became a student, I think. I want to thank everyone for watching on the live stream. Please continue to the discussion at Canada 2067 on Facebook and on Twitter. This ends the live stream portion of this morning, and you can use the app if you have some more questions, and we will follow up. Thank you for your attention, everyone, this morning.